started here. Thank you all for joining us today for a Rashi. It is Thursday, and therefore we will do a Rashi from the fifth Aliyah of the Parsha. If you remember yesterday, we had a quick Rashi yesterday, but at the end of the fourth Aliyah, just right at the very end, we talked about the deal being sealed between Lavan and Besuel and Eliezer to be able to have Rivka go off back to the land of Canaan with him to be a bride for Yitzchak. And we had the final words here, Vayishtachu arza laHashem. He bowed down on the ground to Hashem. And Rashi says, Mikan shemodim al besora tova. That's what we had seen yesterday. From here, we learned that we're supposed to give thanks for a good tiding. I left you with the question I hope you're thinking about today. A little bit, or have been thinking about since yesterday, why we cite that principle on this pasuk, why on this character, why on this incident, why not earlier in the story when he actually does it, when he thanks Hashem for the first time, why now when he thanks Hashem for the second time in response to Lavan and Besuel. Many questions about that, which I'm eager to hear your thoughts about. In general, though, a beautiful idea about thanks. However, the story doesn't end there. In Chamishi, in the fifth Aliyah, the story goes on. Eliezer actually presents them with more gifts, Klei Klasef, Klei Zahab, Gadim, and then the story continues from there. They actually have a meal together. Vayalinu, they go to sleep, they stay over that night. Vayakumu baboker. It's interesting how the story is set. Many things happen in the morning. Vayashkem Avram baboker. Many things happen on the new day. Usually that's to show alacrity. Usually that's to show davening, Vayashkem Avram baboker, for example. Here it's interesting just as a setting. I don't know what Chazal say on it. I didn't look it up. But Vayakumu baboker, they had to sleep on it overnight. There's something about that in our culture. We say, oh, let's sleep on it, right? The deal is sealed. You imagine that Eliezer is ready to take her. They're going to get right back on the road. I don't know. Maybe they didn't travel at night. That could be a practical reason, but who knows? Maybe the deal was set in the morning. We don't really know the whole timeline over here. It seems Vayalinu, Vayakuma baboker. They slept over and they got up in the morning. That somehow there's an element of sleeping on it overnight. Because as you see, perhaps they start to get a little bit of cold feet. Because in the morning, he says, Vayomer shalchuni ladoni. Okay, I'm going to get on the road now. We're going to get going. And now reality sets in. Vayomer achia ve'ima teshev hanara itanu yamimu asor. You know what? Oops, I'm sorry, I pushed that. Now the family starts saying, well, you know what? I love the deal, but maybe she should stay here a little longer. Yeah, she's not really ready to get married yet. Let her stay a little longer, then we'll send her off. So there's perhaps a stall tactic here. Perhaps there's a revelation in the morning that they come to. Perhaps they come to their senses. Perhaps there's a, let me sleep on it and I'll see you in the morning. Sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment with something, you're eager to make a decision, but then when time sets in, you take a little bit of a step back. It's a very human element to this story over here. You could think up 1,000 reasons why that would be the case over here. You could say maybe they weren't sincere. You could say maybe the allure of all the gifts, the Klei Kesef, Klei Zahav that they're getting. That's certainly Chazal's view of Lavan and Besuel. Lavan in specific, very greedy. He's a trickster. So there are many things you could read into the story, but even without all of those views, I'm just pointing out there's a very human element to, as the morning sets in, perhaps our feelings change a little bit. Then there's the beautiful pasuk, they actually leave it to her as to whether she wants to go or not. And we learned from that, a very beautiful halachic principle, which is a woman cannot be forced to get married. A woman has to only get married Ledaita, according to her own will and according to her own knowledge. That I think is a very revolutionary thing in halacha, and certainly at that time was ahead of its time in terms of giving the wife really the control over whether she would be able to get married or not, making it her choice as well, giving her an equal say. A very critical principle. But anyways, she says she wants to go. Vatomer elech. They send them off on their way. But beforehand, they give them a bracha, which I think is interesting. They bless Rivka and they say to her, and this is the bracha we give to brides up until this very day. So many things are learned from this interaction. My sister, our sister, you should be like the thousands, like the tens of thousands. Vayirash zarech at sha'ar sonav. and all of your descendants should inherit their enemies. Meaning you should have a lot of progeny, and that your progeny should be very strong. On the surface of the pasuk, I always imagined that this was a bracha simply of multiple progeny, that she should have a lot of children, that her children should be multiplous. And that's what the beginning of Rashi seems to indicate as well. Ad v'zarech tekablu osa bracha shenemra la'Avram b'hara Moriah v'harba b'eretz zarech. That you should have the same bracha that Avram Avinu got, which is that your children should be multiplous, that he would increase your children in manifold ways. On the surface, it just seems like that bracha. Now, that's a beautiful bracha in and of itself, and it's a nice bracha that they wanted to give her. But the end of the Rashi clued me in, and I really only noticed it this year for the first time, and then I looked in the Mefarshei Rashi, and they say this. The end of the Rashi clued me into another element of this bracha. He ends by saying, Yehi ratzon, he's putting these words in their mouth, Lavan and Besuel, the whole family. Yehi ratzon, sheyehi osa hazera mimech, velo mi'isha achares. They were actually giving her a twofold blessing. Number one, that she had multiple children. And number two, that osa hazera, the line, the progeny of this great family should be only from you. The Mefarshim say that Rashi is picking this up from the word at. The bracha could have been Vayevarchu es Rivka vayomru la achosenu Hayei la'alfei revava. They could have said our sister. Be Hayei la'alfei revava, like the tens, like the hundreds of thousands, be multiplous. But it says achosenu, our sister, at you should be la'alfei revava. From that extra word at, we learn that the bracha here is not just for many progeny, but that she specifically should be the bloodline of this family, of the legacy of Avram Avinu, which explains further why, when Rashi tells us this idea about multiplicity of children, that he cites that it should be like the bracha shenemra la'Avram b'hara Moriah. He's not just comparing, saying, okay, Avram got a blessing that he should have many children, and now they're blessing her to have many children. Rashi was specifically citing the bracha of Avram Avinu. That what the family of Rivka was saying over here to her is that I want you to now tap into that bracha of Avram Avinu. Avram's line was supposed to have a certain future to it, certain legacy to it. They were supposed to give birth to this dynasty. And we want you to tap into that. We want you to get Avram's bracha and continue it. And therefore, we're going to say, you and you alone should have the right, so to speak, or the privilege to bear the children in this line of Avram, in the line of the legacy. It makes this a much richer bracha, a very interesting bracha, that it's both to have many children, but also specifically to carry on the line of the family, to be part of that chain, to be part of that Mesorah. And I think it's not only beautiful and interesting, but their family realized there's something special about the line of, their cousin Avram Avinu, and the line of this family that they wanted her to be a part of, but also that we reiterate this bracha to brides today. And what we're saying to brides as we give this bracha is not just, we hope you have many children, but we're giving the bracha that this couple should also be part of that line, part of that thousands and thousands of year line that came before and the line that will come after, and part of that great, great chain of Jewish history, the chain of the Mesorah, the chain of our tradition, the chain of the legacy and the bracha of Avram Avinu, which he started Har Moriah, even before that, Bris Bein HaBesarim, that continues up until today. We're recognizing the eternity of a relationship and blessing the couple with future. That's not just about children, but it's about eternity as well. It's about tapping into that chain of the Mesorah and that chain of our family, which I think makes it a very, very beautiful blessing, which hopefully we get to give to many more people in the future. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you.